Good morning students, welcome to my third video on solid state. In the second video, we were discussing something about classification of crystalline solids. Based on the type of constituent particles and the type of the attractive forces operating among the constituent particles, crystalline solids are classified into molecular crystals, ionic crystals, covalent crystals, and of course, in the previous video, we discussed something about molecular crystals, the different types of molecular crystals, right? Now we'll take up the second one, that is what we call the ionic crystals, or you can say ionic solids. Ionic solids or ionic crystals. This is one more kind of crystalline solids. Ionic crystals or the crystalline solids containing cations and anions as constituent particles and are held together by strong electrostatic force of attractions. So that is what we call it as ionic crystals. The constituent particles are ions. Constituent particles are ions. Or you can say the cations and anions. Cations and anions are the constituent particles. These cations and anions are held together by strong electrostatic force of attractions. Strong electrostatic force of attractions, and these electrostatic forces are called as ionic bonds. In ionic crystals, the cations and anions are held together by ionic bonds. Ionic bonds are very strong force of attractions. Because of that, you'll find some important properties, as far as ionic crystals are concerned. Ionic crystals are very, very hard and of course characterized by high melting points. Ionic crystals are very, very hard and they are characterized by very high melting points. The hardness and high melting point of the ionic crystals is mainly because of the strong electrostatic force of attractions operating among the constituent particles like cations and anions. And for the same reason, due to the presence of strong inter-ionic force of attractions, ionic crystals are, bad conductors of electricity. Bad conductors of electricity in solid state. They are bad conductors of electricity in solid state. Because in solid state, cations and anions are not moving. They are characterized by fixed positions. They are not moving. They do not show any movement there due to the strong electrostatic force of attractions. Therefore, they are bad conductors of electricity in solid state. When same ionic crystals are melted, or when they are in solution, when ionic crystals are melted or when they are in solution, they are very good conductors of electricity. They are very good conductors of electricity. They are very good conductors of electricity in solution or in molten state. Because when they are melted, these electrostatic force of attractions will be destroyed and ions will become free. Cations and anions will become free, and due to the free movement of the cations and anions, they conduct electricity in molten state or in solution. In molten state or in solution, cations and anions are freely moving due to the destruction of the strong electrostatic force of attractions. That's why in molten state or in solution, ionic crystals are very good conductors of electricity. Ionic crystals are very good conductors of electricity, right? And of course, I want to add one more important point here as far as electrostatic forces are concerned. These electrostatic force of attractions are non-directional. These electrostatic force of attractions are non-directional. Means ionic bonding is non-directional because ionic bonding takes place in any direction. Imagine if I say this is a cation. This cation can attract anion in all the directions. Okay, in all the directions, cation can attract anion. Because of that, there is no direction involved in the force of attraction between cations and anions. Therefore, the electrostatic force of attractions are non-directional. So these are the properties of ionic crystals. These are the properties of ionic crystals. You know, ionic crystals are the crystalline solids containing cations and anions as their constituent particles and are held together by strong electrostatic force of attractions, and that is what we call it as ionic crystals. And of course, under ionic crystals, we come across rock salt. Rock salt is an example for, yes, it is ionic crystal, sodium chloride it is, or you can say, in the case of ionic crystals, you can go for potassium nitrate is also ionic crystal. Potassium nitrate is also ionic crystal. You can go for zinc sulfide is ionic crystal, or you can go for calcium fluoride is ionic crystal, or you can say magnesium oxide is an ionic crystal. Generally, as far as ionic compounds are concerned, ionic compounds will be produced by highly electropositive elements like zinc, calcium, magnesium, potassium and sodium. And that is what we call it as, yes, it is ionic crystals. If you observe the arrangement of these ions in lattice, if you observe the arrangement of these ions in lattice, let me have that particular aspect, okay. Imagine this is arrangement of constituent particles in ionic crystal. Imagine this is arrangement of ions in, yes, it is a three-dimensional space of ionic crystal. Imagine if I say this is a cation, it will be anion, it will be cation, it will be anion, anion, cation, anion, cation, anion, sorry, cation, anion. Look at this. Each cation is surrounded by anions, each anion is surrounded by cations, right? That is, in between cation and anion, there is a strong interionic force of attraction. That is what we call it as ionic bonding. Because here, say for example, in the case of sodium, if it is Na plus, it will be Cl minus. It will be Na plus. It will be Cl minus. Like that, the lattice points, or that the locations in locations in three-dimensional space will be occupied by cations and anions, and that is what we call it as the lattice of the ionic crystals, and they are occupied by cations and anions. As I said, in the case of molecular crystals, lattice points are occupied by molecules. Okay, na? Whereas in the case of ionic crystals, lattice points will be occupied by cations and anions, and that is what we call it as ionic crystals. Agboda? Yes. Now at this moment, we'll take up one crystalline solid, that is covalent crystals. That is covalent crystals, or you can say they are also known as network solids. They are also called as network solids. Covalent solids or covalent crystals are the crystalline solids containing non-metallic atoms as their constituent particles. Covalent crystals are the crystalline solids containing non-metallic atoms as their constituent particles and are held together by strong covalent bonds. They are held together by strong covalent bonds. Such type of crystalline solids are called as covalent crystals. Let me repeat. Covalent crystals are network solids. They are the crystalline solids containing non-metallic atoms like carbon, silicon, oxygen, etc. These are the non-metallic atoms. The crystalline solids containing non-metallic atoms as their constituent particles and are held together by strong covalent bonds. The covalent bond is a kind of force of attraction, a strong force of attraction due to the sharing of electron pairs. Because of the strong covalent bonds, because of that ability of that particular non-metallic atom to form a strong covalent bond, and these non-metallic atoms will form covalent bonds repeatedly in three-dimensional space. These non-metallic atoms will form covalent bonds repeatedly in three-dimensional space with their own atoms to form network of covalent bonds. Because of that, covalent crystals are called as network, what we call it as network solids. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು ನಿಮಗೆ? ಕೋವಲೆಂಟ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ನಾನ್ ಮೆಟಾಲಿಕ್ ಆಟಮ್ಸ್ ಒಂದು ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ. ಏನಪ್ಪ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅನ್ ಎಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಕೋವಲೆಂಟ್ ಬಾಂಡ್ಸ್ with their own atoms. Because of that ability, they form covalent bonds with their own atoms repeatedly throughout the in three-dimensional space to form, the network of covalent bonds. Because of that, they are called as network solids. Because of that, they are called as network solids. And due to the presence of strong covalent bonds, covalent crystals are characterized by certain properties. Covalent crystals are characterized by certain properties. That is, first property is they are bad conductors of electricity. They are bad conductors of electricity, and of course, with an exception of graphite. I'll explain that later. In the case of covalent crystals, constituent particles are non-metallic atoms. And that too, they are held together by strong force of attractions. Because of that, covalent crystals are bad conductors of electricity, and they are not characterized by any ions. They are characterized by only atoms. At the same time, these covalent crystals are characterized by high melting points. Once again, they are characterized by high melting points due to the presence of the network of covalent bonds. The non-metallic atoms are forming covalent bonds with their own atoms repeatedly to form a network of covalent bonds. In order to melt a covalent crystal, you need to break that network of covalent bonds. For that, you need very large amount of energy. Therefore, they are characterized by high melting points. They are characterized by high melting points. These covalent crystals are insoluble in water. These covalent crystals are insoluble in water, but they are soluble in organic solvents. They are soluble in organic solvents, but they are insoluble in water, because water is a polar solvent. Covalent crystals are non-polar. Because of that, they are insoluble in water, whereas ionic crystals are soluble in water. Covalent crystals are insoluble in water. Okay, na? So this is what we call it as the properties of covalent crystals. And examples for that, as far as examples for the covalent crystals are concerned, we have a diamond. Diamond is a network of carbon atoms. And of course, graphite. It is also a network of carbon atoms. Third one is carborundum. Carborundum. Its composition is SiC, silicon carbide. Fourth one is silica. It's not silicon, it is silica, SiO2. It is silica, SiO2, or you can say, you can give this quartz as an example for, covalent crystal. Or you can say, you can give one more example, that is fifth example, aluminum nitride. You can give this as an example for the covalent crystals. As far as the lattice points in covalent crystals are concerned, imagine this is one crystal lattice in covalent crystals anta ankonಡ್ರೆ, okay na? Yes, these lattice points are occupied by non-metallic atoms, like carbon, silicon, oxygen there. Just observe in the case of silicon carbide, if one lattice point is occupied by silicon, another will be carbon, one more will be silicon, another will be silicon, like that, the non-metallic atoms are occupying lattice points. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸಿಲಿಕಾನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ತರ non-metallic atoms are occupying lattice points, and that is what we call it as covalent crystals. And of course, as far as your syllabus is concerned, I am going to discuss something about some structural aspects of graphite and diamond, so that you can understand why graphite is a good conductor of electricity, diamond is a bad conductor of electricity. Diamond is known for very, very hardness. Diamond is a very, very hard material. The main reason for that, the hardness of the diamond is, look at this, there is a network of covalent bonds in, between carbon atoms of diamond there. In diamond, look at this, each carbon atom tetrahedral is surrounded by 4 carbon atoms. Each carbon atom is tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 carbon atoms. And the same thing is repeated here also. Look at this. Each carbon tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 carbon atoms. Look at this. Each carbon atom is tetrahedrally surrounded. Each carbon atom tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 carbon atoms. Each carbon atom tetrahedrally surrounded by 4 carbon atoms. The network of covalent bonds between 2 carbon atoms is observed in the case of diamond. Due to this network of covalent bonds between carbon atoms, diamond is very, very hard. And one more important aspect is, in the case of, diamond, each carbon atom is directly attached to the 4 carbon atoms in a tetrahedral fashion. Because of that, all the 4 valence electrons are used in bonding. All the 4 valence electrons are used for bonding. Therefore, no free electrons are available. Therefore, diamond is a bad conductor of electricity. Carbon ಇರತಕ್ಕಂತ 4 valence electrons ಏನಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ they are completely involved in bonding there. Because of that, no free electrons are available, and therefore diamond is, yes, it is bad conductor of electricity, and each carbon atom in diamond is sp3 hybridized. So that is what we call it as something about diamond there. If you look at the graphite here, look at this graphite. Illi nodi, ee graphite is arrangement nodi. You can find the hexagonal arrangement of the carbon atoms. Each carbon atom is attached to 3 other carbon atoms. Avudalva? Each carbon atom is attached to 3 other carbon atoms. Each carbon atom is attached to 3 other carbon atoms. Each carbon atom is attached to 3 other carbon atoms. Nodi, ಯಾವುದೇ ಅರೇಂಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನೋಡಿ ನೀವು, ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಕೂಡ 3 ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಗೆ ಅಟ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. In graphite, each carbon atom is directly attached to the 3 carbon atoms like this. Each carbon atom is directly attached to the 3 other carbon atoms like this. Each carbon atom is directly attached to the 3 carbon atoms like this. Okay na? Andre, out of 4 valence electrons, 3 valence electrons are used for bonding, and 4th electron is free in the pz orbital. 4th electron is free in the pz orbital. Hagagi, each carbon atom is characterized by, each carbon atom is characterized by one pz orbital containing 1 free electron. Due to the presence of that free electron, graphite is a very good conductor of electricity. Graphite is characterized by what we call it as shining appearance, very, very soft. Okay na? And look at this, there are layers of, the carbon atoms, this is first layer of carbon atom, second layer and third layer. In between 2 layers there is a gap, and that gap will be occupied by, the pz orbital containing 1 electron. And because of that availability of this pz orbital here, there is a gap between 2 layers here, and therefore graphite is very soft, and it is used as a lubricant, and of course a very good conductor of electricity, and that is what we call it as the property of graphite. So, and of course these covalent crystals are also called as giant molecules. Because of that network of covalent bonds between non-metallic atoms, they are able to form a big molecules, or you can say that giant molecules, that is giant molecules, big molecules, huge molecules, right? So that is what we call it as covalent crystals. One more kind of, the crystalline solid. So with that information, we'll move on to the last type of crystalline solid, that is what we call it as metallic crystals. Metallic crystals, or you can say that metallic solids. Metallic solids are the crystalline solids containing metal atoms as constituent particles. Metallic crystals are the crystalline solids containing metal atoms as their constituent particles, and they are held together by metallic bonding. And such type of crystalline solids are called as metallic crystals, or you can say metallic solids. Then of course, as far as metals are concerned, this metallic bonding is electrostatic force of attraction. That is interesting. Electrostatic force of attraction. It's a strong electrostatic force of attraction that is in the form of metallic bonding. The metallic bonding can be explained by using one theory, that is called electron C model. I can make use of this electron C model in order to explain, the metallic bonding. Very, very special, yes it is, case it is. As far as metals are concerned, metals are characterized by metal ions. Metals are characterized by metal ions. Look at this. These metals are characterized by metal ions. How do you get metal ions? By when metal atom loses electron and they are converted into metal ions. You know, metal atoms are characterized by, yes it is, low enthalpy of ionization. They have that ability of losing electrons. Okay, now in metals, metal atoms are distributed in metal lattice in the form of metal kernels or metal ions, and they are immersed in the sea of freely flowing electrons. They are immersed in a sea of freely flowing electrons. Look at this. Just imagine the pool of electrons in a system. Just imagine pool of electrons in a system. These electrons are freely flowing. They are moving from one particular direction, from one place to another place. They are moving continuously. We call them as mobile electrons. Metal is characterized by pool of electrons, a sea of electrons. See, there is a sea of electrons in which the positively charged metal ions are immersed. The positively charged metal ions are immersed. And because of that, there is a simultaneous electrostatic force of attraction between the metal ions and mobile electrons. There is a simultaneous electrostatic force of attraction between metal ions and mobile electrons. And such type of electrostatic force of attraction is called as metallic bonding. You just imagine metal as the system containing pool of electrons, system containing sea of electrons. Where there is a freely flowing electrons you can find here, or you can say delocalized electrons, you can call them as. Delocalized electrons mean they are moving continuously. In that pool of electrons, in that sea of electrons, the large number of metal ions or kernels, are immersed. Thereby, there is a simultaneous electrostatic force of attraction between mobile electrons and, yes, it is fixed ions. And that is what we call it as metallic bonding. Once again, I said metallic bonding is electrostatic force of attraction. Therefore, it is non-directional. Because of that metallic bonding only, metals are very good conductors of electricity. Metallic bonding, due to the presence of freely moving electrons, metals are very good conductors of electricity. When electricity is passed through the metals, definitely due to the movement of electrons, and metals conduct electricity there. Metals are very good conductors of heat. They exhibit the property called thermal conductivity there. When metal is heated at one particular part, when this portion of the metal is heated, what happens, there is a transformation of thermal energy, and electrons will absorb that energy, and the kinetic energy of the electrons increases, and that leads to the transformation of heat energy from one part of the metal to the another part. That is what we call thermal conductivity. That is, when metal is heated, the kinetic energy of electrons increases, and that results in transformation of heat energy from one part of the metal into the another part. That is what we call it as thermal conductivity there. In the same manner, metals are characterized by metallic luster. They have got shining appearance, and that's once again because of availability of freely moving electrons at the surface of the metal. When light falls on the surface of metal, vibration of electrons starts. That results in absorption of light energy and simultaneous emission of energy. Because of that, the metal surfaces are having metallic luster. That is, they are characterized by shining appearance. Metals are malleable and ductile. That's because of non-directional nature of the metallic bonding. And of course, this is what we call it as the properties of metals. And of course, metals are characterized by high melting points. And of course, some metals are characterized by low melting points. That depends on the strength of the metallic bonding. And that is what we call it as metallic crystals. And that's all about what we call it as the classification of crystalline solids. With that information, we'll take up next and the very important aspect. Give this title as Fundamentals of Crystallography. I give the title as Fundamentals of Crystallography. The study of structure of the crystalline solids, the study of arrangement of the constituent particles of crystal, that is what we call crystallography. In crystallography now, we come across one important term, what we call it as lattice, or it can be called as space lattice. It can be called as space lattice, or it can be called as, yes it is crystal lattice. It can also be called as crystal lattice. These are the different, and sometimes we use Bravais lattice, like that, we have different terms for this particular term, that is crystal lattice. I am going to explain this particular crystal lattice, by taking one example. Just imagine a classroom in which the students are, that they are sitting in a classroom. Students sitting in a classroom, right? ಒಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. In that particular classroom, you can see there is a systematic arrangement, seating arrangement for the students there. ಒಂದು ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ಬಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ಗರ್ಲ್ಸ್ ಕೂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. One boy is exactly behind the another boy, like that, one definite pattern is involved in the arrangement of the seating arrangement of the students, right? And that arrangement of, or you can say that students in a classroom, just imagine that arrangement, the students in a classroom, and that gives you an idea. That is a crystal lattice. Students are the particles. Students are the particles. Students are the particles, right? And the positions of the students in a classroom, that is called lattice point. We call it as lattice point. The positions of the students in a classroom, that is what we call it as lattice point. Students will represent particles. Their positions in a classroom, that is what we call lattice point. And the whole classroom is what we call it as crystal lattice, that is. That means crystal lattice is the regular arrangement of the constituent particles in three-dimensional space. Regular arrangement of constituent particles in three-dimensional space of a given solid, that is what we call it as crystal lattice, or you can say that's simply lattice, or you can say that is space lattice. The regular arrangement of the constituent particles in three-dimensional space of a given solid, that is what we call it as crystal lattice. If any arrangement to be called as a crystal lattice, if you want to call any arrangement as a crystal lattice, it should exhibit certain properties. It should exhibit certain properties. We'll see that the properties of the lattice. Properties of the lattice. Characterized by certain properties. The first property of crystal lattice is, okay, now crystal lattice is characterized by certain points, and these points are called as lattice points. These points are called as lattice points. And these lattice points represent the particles of a given solid. They represent the particles of given solid. Particles may be atoms. Particles may be atoms, or molecules, or ions. When these lattice points are joined by certain imaginary lines, you are going to get a certain geometry to the crystal lattice. That means these lattice points are joined by certain imaginary lines to get a certain geometrical shape to the crystal lattice. Certain geometrical shape to the crystal lattice. I am going to explain that particular aspect by writing one crystal lattice. We'll see that. Okay, I am going to explain all these properties by writing one. Yes, it is that. Imagine a crystal lattice, right? This is crystal lattice, right? Arrangement of the particles in three-dimensional space in a regular pattern, and there is a regular pattern involved in the arrangement of the constituent particles, and this is what we call it as crystal lattice. Okay, now just imagine, you can find here blue spheres and red spheres, and they constitute what we call it as one crystal lattice. They constitute one crystal lattice, right? This is crystal lattice. there is a regular pattern, there is a regular arrangement of the constituent particles in three-dimensional space. Okay, now each point in a crystal is characterized by each point in a crystal lattice is called as lattice point. Okay, now lattice points will represent particles. They are the locations occupied by the particles in given crystal lattice, right? Okay, now when these lattice points are joined by certain imaginary lines, just imagine I am going to join these lattice points by certain imaginary lines in three-dimensional space. I joined these lattice points by certain imaginary lines. Then you are going to get, yes, it is one geometrical shape. You are going to get one geometrical shape, is it not? You got one geometrical shape. That means geometry of the crystal lattice can be obtained by joining the lattice point by certain imaginary lines. So that is what we call it as one more property of crystal lattice. Each particle in crystal lattice has got identical surroundings. Blue particle is surrounded by 4 red particle. Each blue particle is surrounded by 4 red particle. Each red particle is surrounded by blue particle. 4 blue particle. And each lattice point in crystal lattice is characterized by identical surroundings. And the next property is, if any two particles are joined by imaginary line, just imagine I join these two particles by certain line, one line, okay na? This line joining any two particle will pass through similar kind of particles at certain intervals. Notice I joined blue and red, red and blue, right? And this same line is passing through the similar kind of particles at certain intervals. Blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, like that. That is one more property of, yes, it is crystal lattice. One more property of crystal lattice. Is it not? So this is what we call it as crystal lattice. You just imagine if these, what we call it as the lattice points, the group of lattice points, I joined these group of lattice, these lattice points by certain imaginary line, and I got one geometrical shape. And that particular geometrical shape will be repeated throughout the solid. Look at this. That geometrical shape will be repeated throughout the solid. Same geometrical shape is repeated throughout the solid. Same geometrical shape is repeated throughout the solid. And that group of lattice points, which will be repeated again and again to form a crystal lattice, that is called as unit cell. That is called as unit cell. So what is unit cell? Yes, it is unit cell. Unit cell is a group of lattice points, three-dimensional group of lattice points, which will be repeated again and again to generate a original crystal. That is what we call it as unit cell. That is what we call it as unit cell. Okay, na? So this is what we call it as unit cell, lattice point, crystal lattice, properties of the crystal lattice. Okay, na? So these are the basic aspects of the crystallography. So we'll see in the next class the types of unit cells in 2 dimensions, types of unit cells in 3 dimensions. So that's all for now. In the next video we'll see different types of unit cell. Thank you.